Walk into any supermarket in March, and you are immediately assaulted by a wall of neon plastic grass and foil-wrapped marshmallow chicks. When you stop to think about it, the combination of concepts here is bizarre. Billions of people are celebrating the brutal state execution and resurrection of a first-century rabbi by eating hollow chocolate bunnies. How did these wildly incompatible traditions end up glued together on the exact same Sunday every spring? To figure that out, we have to bypass the retail packaging and rewind the clock about 4,000 years, landing in the middle of a terrifying frozen ancient winter. Each item in that modern Easter basket represents a different chronological layer of human history, stacking one on top of the other over the course of 4 millennia. For early civilizations, winter meant death. The sun weakened, the crops died, and survival was far from guaranteed. It felt like an astronomical apocalypse. This model of Earth's orbit shows us the celestial turning point. The vernal equinox marks the exact day light finally overtakes darkness in the northern hemisphere. This relief sparked humanity's very first resurrection cults. Long before the Christian Gospels were written, the ancient Phrygians worshipped a dying god named Attis. According to their myth, he bled to death under a pine tree, only to be miraculously reborn alongside the spring crops. Further north in the cold, dense forests of Europe, Germanic tribes worshipped the dawn. Their chief deity of fertility and new beginnings was a goddess named Iostre, the literal namesake for the month of April. Millennia before anyone in Europe had heard of Jesus, the psychological architecture for a dying and rising savior was already deeply carved into human instinct. In the Middle East, the focus shifted from the rotation of the seasons to a specific historical event, the liberation of the Israelites from Egypt. This was the origin of Passover. Centuries later, that exact festival of liberation served as the political backdrop for a massive conflict. A radical rabbi named Jesus of Nazareth arrived in Jerusalem during Passover and was executed by the Roman state. On the third day, his followers claimed his tomb was empty. That single assertion ignited a religious revolution that rapidly spread across the empire. As early Christians pushed into Europe, they noticed a powerful chronological overlap. Jesus was resurrected at the exact time of year the locals were already celebrating the rebirth of the earth. By framing Jesus as both the Passover lamb and a figure who returned to life in the spring, the church presented the story in a language the locals already understood, mapping the Christian resurrection onto the existing, ancient belief in a returning sun. Merging these traditions nearly tore the early church apart. For 300 years, Eastern Christians insisted on celebrating the resurrection on the exact date of Jewish Passover, while Roman Christians demanded it happen on Sunday, the day of the sun. The debate raged until Emperor Constantine stepped in. At the Council of Nicaea, he demanded political unity across his empire and officially severed the Christian holiday from the Jewish calendar. This diagram demonstrates the council's astronomical compromise. They created a formula bridging the Jewish lunar and Roman solar calendars. The math dictates the holiest day must fall on the first Sunday after the first full moon following the spring equinox. With the date locked, the Catholic Church expanded north. Pope Gregory the Great issued a highly effective directive. Instead of destroying local pagan traditions, priests should simply baptize and absorb them. To see this in practice, look at the egg, an ancient, universal symbol of fertility. Medieval peasants boiled them and dyed them red with onion skins, transforming a pagan icon into a symbol of Christ's blood and his sealed tomb. Rather than erasing local customs, the Church absorbed them, transforming existing pagan rituals into standardized Christian orthodoxy. For 2 millennia, the holiday remained spiritual and agricultural. Then the Industrial Revolution arrived, and heavy machinery abruptly shattered the ancient rhythms of the seasons. Corporations like Cadbury looked at the calendar and noticed a massive, highly profitable gap sitting quietly between Christmas and the summer holidays. Once factory lines could mass-produce hollow chocolate eggs, the ancient narratives of sun worship and Roman crosses were quietly pushed to the background. Modern retail successfully hijacked the festival. The sacred dread of the dying winter was scrubbed away, replaced entirely by a highly marketable aesthetic of pastel colors and refined sugar. When you look back at that bizarre modern Easter basket, it stops looking like a chaotic mess. It is a perfectly preserved stack of chronological strata. Biting into a chocolate bunny is a direct echo of European nature worship. Gathering around the table for a spring feast is an echo of Jewish liberation. The story of the empty tomb resonates with a species that has spent thousands of years fearing the winter, offering a narrative where the cycle of death is finally broken. The history of Easter reveals a complex process of survival and adaptation. Whether we are escaping the cold or an oppressive empire, the festival endures because it promises that the light will eventually return.